Welcome back, mathematicians. Today is April 22nd, 2020. We will begin our math lesson of the day, Make a Bar Graph. Our lesson objective is, I can organize, represent, and interpret data with up to 3 categories using a bar graph. Let's get started with our warm-up. You will have 60 seconds to solve the following number sentence. Ready? Begin. Thirty seconds left. Five, four, three, two, one, stop. All right, mathematicians, let's check your answers. 60 plus 20 equals 80. 80 minus 20 equals 60. 70 plus 50 equals 120. And 100 minus 50 equals 50. Check your work and let's move on. All right, boys and girls, let's start with this quick check. So it says, Jacob grabbed 2 handfuls of connecting cubes and graphed the cubes by color. Use the picture graph to answer the questions. So he has red cubes, yellow cubes, and green cubes. Our first question is, how many cubes did Jacob grab in all? All right, do you have your answer? Okay, so let's check. I see he has I see he has 4 red cubes, 6 yellow cubes, and 2 green cubes. That means that in all he has, 4 plus 6 equals 10, plus 2 more equals 12. So how many cubes did Jacob grab in all? He grabbed 12 cubes in all. Next question. How many more red cubes than green cubes did he grab? All right, question number 2. How many more red cubes than green cubes did he grab? How many more? That means that we are comparing, right? What are we comparing? We're comparing those 2 groups, which is the red cubes and the green cubes. If we look up here in our picture graph, there are 4 red cubes and 2 green cubes. Now we learned that how many more means compare. So I can compare both groups and I can do 1, 2, 1 match. 1, 2, 1 match, 1, 2, 1 match, and we compare. So how many more red cubes are there than green? Very good. Very good. 2 more red cubes than green. Right there. So that means there's 2 more red cubes than green. Nice job. Okay, so in order to get started, let's think about what we've learned so far about tally charts and picture graphs. Now, thinking about that, let's think. What information do you guys think we could get from a bar graph? Right? So if from a tally chart and a picture graph, we can know how many people were surveyed and how many people voted for each category, do you guys think that is also the case for a bar graph? It is, right? Because it's still a graph and it's still giving us data, it's still giving us information. Now, my next question is, what information can we gather from a tally chart or a picture graph? Right? We can know how many people voted. We can know how many people were surveyed. We can learn what were the different categories, the title of the chart or the graph. Very good. Now, how do you guys think information might be shown in a bar graph? So if for tally charts, we use tallies to show information, and for picture graphs, we used pictures to show information. How might we show information in a bar graph? Excellent choice, by using bars. Let's go on to take a look at how that would look. So in this investigate the math, it says, in a survey, 3 people voted for an oak tree, 4 people voted for a pine tree, 6 people voted for a cherry tree. Complete the bar graph. So if we were making a tally chart, we would have to put how many tallies for oak? 3, right? But in this case, we are creating a bar graph. So let's look very carefully at the information that we have. So we know that 3 people voted for an oak tree. How many people voted for a pine tree? Very good. 4 people voted for a pine tree. So how many people voted for a cherry tree? Yes, 6 people voted for a cherry tree. Now that we have that information, we are ready to create our bar graph. So, like we mentioned before, a bar graph uses bars to show the information, to show data. So if oak tree has 3 votes, that means that where it says oak, I have to make a bar that goes all the way to number 3. See? So that's 1 bar. And it goes all the way to number 3. So for pine tree, my bar graph should go all the way to what number? Very good. 4. And for the cherry tree, how long should my bar graph be? 6. Very good. So why is the oak tree stopping at 3? Because it received 3 votes. Why is the pine tree all the way to 4? Because it had 4 votes. So how many votes did the cherry tree have? 6. Very good. Question number 1. How many more people chose the cherry tree than the oak tree? Again, I see the how many more, right? How many more means compare. And we're comparing the cherry tree to the oak tree. So we know that the cherry tree has 6 votes and the oak tree has 3. So how many more votes did the cherry tree have? Right? So I could go ahead and subtract. 6 votes that the cherry has to 3 votes that the oak tree has. So 6 take away 3 equals 3. So remember, boys and girls, how many more means compare. 1 to 1 match, 1 to 1 match, and I subtract, right? Now let's look at our next question. How many fewer people chose the pine tree than the cherry tree? Again, we are seeing the how many fewer, right? So it's not how many more, it's how many fewer, but we're still comparing two groups. We're comparing the pine tree to the cherry tree. So once again, we look at the cherry tree. The cherry tree has 6 votes. The pine tree has 4 votes. So how many fewer votes does the pine tree have? Right? It would be 2. Again, I can compare with the 1-to-1 match, or I can subtract. So I would look at the cherry tree because it's the one with the most votes. So I would say 6, take away 4 that the pine tree has, and 6 take away 6 take away 4 equals 2. So how many fewer people chose the pine tree than the cherry tree? 2 people. Very good. Next question. How many people chose the pine tree or the cherry tree? Here, the very important part of the question is the or, right? So you could have chosen the pine tree or the cherry tree. So now we're looking at these two groups, the pine and the cherry tree. And we want to know how many people voted for pine or cherry. So it doesn't matter for which of these two they voted. So we want to know the information for these two groups. So if we want to know the information about these two groups, the pine tree and the cherry tree, we need to put them together. So we say 4 votes from the pine tree or 6 votes from the cherry tree equals 10. All right. Next question. How many people voted in the survey? How many people voted in the survey? So in other words, how many people were asked this question? Okay, so we know there's 3 people for oak tree, 4 people for pine tree, and 6 people for cherry. So how many people were surveyed? "13 people were surveyed." Right. Excellent job, mathematicians. Okay, I know it's a lot of information right now. I'm going to take a little moment here. Think about what we just did. So remember, how many more means we're comparing two groups. So we're basically subtracting. How many fewer also means we're comparing. So we're also subtracting those two numbers. Okay. Here we go. So a bar graph uses bars to show information or data. Use the tally chart to make a bar graph. So again, they're asking about their favorite healthy snack. The options or the categories were apple, cheese, and celery. If we look at the tally chart, we could see that 2 people voted for apple, 1 person voted for cheese, and 3 people voted for celery. So when we make our bar graph, apples should show 2. Stop at 2. Cheese should show 1. Stop at 1. And celery should show 3. So stop at 3. So do you see how we can use a tally chart to make a bar graph? We could also use a picture graph to make a bar graph, right? Because it's giving us the same information. All right, we're going to solve this together. It says, conduct a survey of 12 people to find out their favorite type of pie from the pies shown below. Enter the data into the tally chart. Use the tally chart to make a bar graph. So we have favorite pie, pumpkin, blueberry, apple. So let's see, how many tallies did pumpkin receive? Excellent. 4. How many people voted for blueberry as their favorite pie? 2. And how many people voted for apple as their favorite pie? Very good. 6. So if we want to make a bar graph using this information, using this data, where would my pumpkin bar stop at? Very good. 4. Where would blueberry stop at? How many votes did blueberry receive? 2. And apple has how many votes? 6. So my bar graph is going to go all the way to 6. So this is how we make a bar graph, boys and girls, using a tally chart. Now on your own, right, taking that tally chart that you created a couple of days ago, you're going to create a bar graph. So again, I will be using the favorite fruit tally chart. So remember, my survey question was, what is your favorite fruit? And my categories were peach, watermelon, bananas, or other. My survey question was, what is your favorite fruit? If you noticed, in my tally chart, again, I have my title, my categories, and my data. I'm going to use this data to create my bar graph. So what goes here on the top? Very good, my title, right? And what is my title? Favorite fruit. Then on this side, I'm going to write my categories, right here. So my categories are peach, watermelon, bananas, and others. So I would put all my categories right here. Then right here is where I'm going to make my bars. So peach got 5 votes. So I'm going to make a bar graph up to 5. Bananas got 6 votes, so I'm going to make a bar all the way to 6. And I would be finishing it all later, right? I would put watermelons and others. So right in this section, I'm showing bars. I'm using bars to show data. You will be doing the same thing with your tally chart. Remember, that's the one where you asked about favorite food, favorite sport, favorite fruit. Those are the ones I remember seeing. So use that information to create your own. Are you ready? Okay, so now it's your turn. Remember, using the data from your tally chart, please make a bar graph. And then share it with me using Class Dojo. Right? Can't wait to see all of those wonderful bar graphs. All right, mathematicians, see you soon. Bye-bye.